This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by Nick Campbell once again this week. Nick, last night we saw a brilliant, brilliant night of boxing. We'll start off at the bottom of the card, I guess you could say, which sounds ridiculous me saying this, but Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith kicked off the card for us last night. What was a fight of the year contender? What did you make of it?
Yeah, like listen, I thought it was the fight of the night, to be honest with you. It was a bit odd because it was the first fight on and it was so good. Buatsi's warrior spirit. I thought Callum Smith had him under extreme pressure at times. He was mixing it up, body to head. He was catching them clean with a lot of shots. He was almost Eubank-esque in the way that he kind of wore some of the shots and kept coming forward. So, I credit to Buatsi for being the warrior that he is. And I thought it was a brilliant performance for Callum Smith. Thought he died a little bit near the end. Not died a little bit, but you could see that when he was going at the championship rounds, he didn't quite have the crispness in his shots. And Buatsi came on strong at the end, but yeah, great performance from him.
I think the one thing that's been the biggest talking point coming away from it was that sixth round. A lot of people saying round of the year. What did you make of that sixth round and just seeing them go back and forth with each other for those 3 minutes?
Yeah, it was like a proper fight of the year. Can like you say, it could be the round of the year, if not the fight of the year. It had everything in it. It had back and forth. It had one guy hurt, had the other guy hurt. It was just the perfect fight, really. Perfect.
How did you score the fight? The judges' scorecards, obviously, two cards being a lot of people agree with. One card being very wide, 119, 110. How did you score it?
Yeah, I thought Callum Smith maybe edged it by 3 or 4 rounds, maybe 2 or 3 even, something like. But I didn't think it was that wide. But listen, who knows what he's looking for? I thought Callum definitely had the better shot selection at the end of the day. So yeah,
And what do you want to see Callum Smith move on to next?
yeah. Listen, I think he's probably earned a world title shot off the back of that. He's probably earned the right to fight for the world title. But they're all tied up now with Bivol and Beterbiev, so I don't know if maybe one of them vacates a belt because I don't think that fight's going to happen straight away now. The trilogy, so maybe one of those belts will become vacant and they can fight. There can be a fight made for one of them. Yeah, I think that would be fair enough. I think that's what his team should be looking for.
Moving on to the second fight, Ajit Kabayel with a dominant display. I guess you could say dominant display, despite a little slip in the fifth round against Zhilei Zhang. But again, a phenomenal fight from to really not I would say kicked off, but Smith actually set the standards and they basically matched it. How good was that fight?
Yeah, unbelievable. I actually expected Zhang to stop him late on. I think I spoke to you and said to you earlier in the week that that's what I seen, but I didn't expect him to stop him in the first half of the fight, even though it was the sixth round. But I thought he came out. He was very cautious and cagey in the first round. He felt obviously Zhang's power, and then went, you know what, I can handle this. Then he just stayed in the pocket. His punch output was incredible. He worked the body, and I knew that the body shots were going to be the kind of determining factor. I thought that was going to wear him down, and it did. So, it was a punch perfect performance, bar the one shot. But listen, like I said to you, Zhang's always dangerous. He's a big, massive man, heavy handed, and he always had the chance of landing that one shot. But fair play to Caballero, he was back up on his feet, I think, before four. And he went straight back to work the rest of the round, and then obviously got that decisive finish. Bit sad to see, Zhang go out like that, but he's getting well paid. He's been in some incredible fights. Not sure where he goes from here, but yeah, great performance for Caballero.
Now we're in a period in this heavyweight division where there's a lot of talk of who's going to be that next star in the division. The likes of AJ Usyk, Fury, are all on their way out. Fury already being retired, and a lot of talk about who could be that next future star at heavyweight. Could that be Ajit Kabayel?
I think he's definitely in the top five, if not the top four. His next fight really needs to be for a world, possibly an eliminator for a world title. Um, but yeah, he definitely is in the question. I don't know if, yeah, I'll come back to Zhang at the end, but I've got thoughts on maybe how things will play out. But yeah, he's definitely a contender and he's definitely up there.
Well, I want to know your thoughts on how things are going to play out. Then can you break this down for us and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, like I think. obviously we'll talk about Bakole Parker, but maybe I think Bakole's supposed to be now scheduled to fight in May against the Jaguar still. They've promised him that. So Bakole fights, these names gone out of my head, that Jagba. He has a convincing victory there with a good 10-week camp under his belt. And then maybe Caballero and Bakole fight a final eliminator for a world title. I think I listened to Billy talking today in one of his interviews, and he said that they want two fights really. Then he wants to be back up at where he was before this Parker fight. So that could be a route. That could be a route
Fair
for
enough.
both men. For both men.
For Zhilei Zhang, obviously, you mentioned you don't really know where he goes from here. He did put out a little post on Instagram shortly after the fight, I guess you could say, saying that he will be back. If he is to come back, who would you like to see him go in there with?
Do you know? I don't know. I don't know. I could kind of see Zhang becoming maybe somebody like a Moses Atuma would fight. Um, I know I seen your face there. I think it's a bit of a wild card call, but I think Atuma would pretty, based on what I seen last night, I think Atuma would be far too much for Zhang now at this stage in his career. But he's a big name. He's been in with some, you know, he's been in with some big names. He's had some great results. And potentially for somebody like Atuma who wants to be pushing up to a world title challenge in the next year or year and a half, somebody like Zhang's probably on his radar. And I seen him at the side of the ring, watching the fight, and I'm pretty sure he would fancy his chances against him.
Do you feel there could be any interest in possibly making Zhilei Zhang versus Derek Chisora?
Yeah, do you know what? Aye, like that. There is an angle for that. They're two kind of older statesmen in the division. It would be a great send off for both of them, really. Um, but Chisora's that IBF mandatory now, or he's in that position. So I don't know how it'll play out. It all depends on money and stuff like that, and what Turkey wants to see. So yeah, but I think that would be a fan-friendly fight. Definitely fireworks, and probably two guys at the end of their career pretty evenly matched, and it would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just moving on, Hamzah Sheeraz challenged for his first world title last night in what was I guess you have to say, a controversial result against Carlos Adames. When you were sat there watching the fight, how did you score it, first of all?
Yeah, probably had the damage just ahead. Maybe one round in it, 2 rounds in it. I thought Shiraz was very, very he wasn't himself, to be honest with you. And I think obviously the injury to his hand, he broke his hand that we didn't know at the time, but that kind of explains a lot of things maybe about his performance. Wasn't what we're used to seeing, never really let his hands go. When he did have a little bit of success, he never really backed him up on it. And yeah, I think as well the weight, Frank kind of alluded after the fight that maybe he's a bit tight at the weight. He has a huge man for that weight. So maybe a combination of the being a bit tight at the weight, picking up the hand injury in the fight. And yeah, I think he had his best work in the last couple of rounds, but maybe it was just a little bit too late to kind of nick the decision. And yeah, listen, at least he never lost his O. And at least he can come again. But it'd be interesting to see where he goes moving forward. He'll need to recover from that hand injury. Fingers crossed there's no lasting damage there. And then it's a question of whether he stays at the weight or goes up.
What would you rather see him do? Do you think he should stick at 160 or look at that move to super middleweight?
Yeah, listen, I'm kind of a bit funny with these ones. It's not really about what I want to see. It's about whatever's best for the fighter.
Mm.
A guy like that trying to make the weight must be tough. He's huge. He's what is he? 6'5", 6'4", 6'5".
I think 6'4".
Yeah, very tall. So for him to be making that weight, do you know what I mean? It must take a toll on him. So him and his team need to go away and have a think. And yeah, if he needs to move up the weight, there'll be opportunities for him then anyway. He's a great fighter, and I think the hand injury maybe played into his performance last night. So yeah, definitely, definitely fights for him going forward. Whether he fights Adam Ezek, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
And we'll move on to the chief support, Joseph Parker versus Martin Bakole, two men that
Are
you
you
know very.
missed Stevenson and Padley?
Oh, actually, no, we need to give Josh Padley his flowers. We do need to give Josh Padley his
We
flowers.
do.
4 days notice, as stated all week. Tuesday he was installing solar panels in roofs, and then Saturday he's out in Riyadh fighting for the world title. While not his night, um, a brilliant effort from Josh Padley, wasn't it?
Yeah, listen, I think he can hold his head high. Stevenson, in my opinion, is maybe the next kind of Mayweather type figure coming out of America. He's a very, very talented guy. Um, you know, he's classy. He's obviously ex-Olympian. He's got everything going for him, and he's got the style to match it. But Josh Padley came in and gave as good as he got. Tried to get in there and mix it with him. There was times he was getting caught with big shots, but then he just seemed to come back out of nowhere, and he never gave up. I was glad to see his corner kind of throw the towel in because I don't think there was any quitting him. And it was nice to see them, protect him because his stock's definitely risen. And I think, where we thought he was ceiling was, it's probably a little bit higher than that. I'm not saying that, he's going to beat Stevenson in a rematch or anything like that, but he's definitely got a big future ahead of him. And listen, he's changed his life. He's got himself a house, a big pay packet, and yeah, fair play to him. It's the kind of stuff you love, the stories we love to see from boxing.
Absolutely, and full credit to Turki Al Sheikh as well for not just paying him a big, big sum of money, but also getting him a new house in the process. I'm sure that was another nice thing for Josh Padley. Just on Shakur Stevenson, who do you want to see him fight next? What names take your
I think,
fancy?
think he's still 2 or 3 fights away from the big boys. Like he's still 2 and 3 fights away from maybe fighting somebody like Javante Davis, Ryan Garcia, Haney. I think he's still got 2 or 3 fights, but that's ultimately the fights we want to see them in. He's definitely going to be there, but I think he just needs another 2 or 3, kind of guys in the top. Do you know what? I can't really think of many guys off the top of my head who I would like to see him in there with before he gets to that stage, but he definitely needs another 2 or 3, and he's in the big fights. Maybe somebody like Cambosis would be a good fight for him.
Yeah, I
Somebody
can
like
see that.
that, yeah, yeah. Somebody of that nature, somebody that's going to test him, push him. I expect him to come through with flying colours and then on to the big fights after that.
A lot of criticism has been given to Shakur for last night, and a lot of people think he'd get Josh Padley out of there earlier. Not only one is it the fact Josh Padley wouldn't give up in there and just kept coming regardless of what was being thrown at him, but do you also feel with that last minute change of opponents, while Shakur Stevenson is an elite fighter, you still need time to prepare for a different fighter. And 4 days isn't exactly a lot of time to prepare for a whole different style, is it?
No, listen, I think he's not a big concussive puncher. He's very accurate. He's got a phenomenal jab. His jab was unbelievable last night, I thought. Um, but he's not a concussive knockout artist. He's a classy, silky, but he's like Mayweather. He's like Money Mayweather rather than Pretty Boy. Do you know what I mean? He's got that kind of style. He's got the shoulder roll. He tucks up well. He's got everything. He's got all the tools at his disposal. And listen, Josh Padley was a game proud man and didn't want to be embarrassed. Wanted to come out and give a good account of himself. So I don't think there's any. I don't really have any problem with Shakur's performance. I thought he'd done what he had to do. He fought a game guy on 4 days' notice. He probably had to change up what he was doing a little bit, but he got the decision.
Absolutely.
All right,
Moving
he
on.
got the stoppage, and that's what it is.
Absolutely. Moving on to the chief support now. Parker versus Bakole. Like I said, two men you know very well. The buzz when this fight was announced, I think it's fair to say was something we've never seen before. We were saying we've never had anything like this in boxing before. And for 2 days' notice, I've never seen so many people struggle to decide who wins a fight. Obviously, we now have the result. Joseph Parker with a second round stoppage over Martin. What did you make of the fight, first of all?
Yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. I think the tactics from Andy and Joe were perfect. Martin just off a 24-hour flight or however long it took him to travel across. Very, very heavy, 310 pounds, supposedly. It's maybe even a little bit heavier than that. And yeah, like I think it it was perfect performance for Joe. He knew that Martin didn't really respect his power. Martin was just going to keep coming forward, walking through him. And the big overhand right that he caught him with should have been the warning to Martin. because he caught him square flush in the face with it, and then 10 seconds later knocked him out with the exact same shot. So yeah, I think the first round was a little bit cagey. He was kind of in close, boxing at long range, trying to walk Martin back, tire him out. I thought that was a tactic that they were trying to use, tie him up, walk him back, push him back, don't let him come forward all the time. And then I think Joe said in the corner, Andy had told him, listen, throw the overhand right. He doesn't respect your power. He's going to keep coming forward. That's the shot that he's there to be hit with. What happened the next round? So yeah, it was didn't quite play out how I personally thought it would. But does it surprise me looking back at it? Probably not. He's not had a camp, not been training, pretty overweight, and it was a risk that didn't pay off.
Do you feel Martin Bakole loses anything last night? Obviously, while losing the fight, but in the long run, do you feel he's lost a lot, or that's not going to
Yeah,
do
yeah. Well, listen, he's lost his IBF final eliminator. He's probably 2 or 3 fights away now from where he was before that. He's probably lost his mantle of the bogeyman in the division. Listen, it doesn't matter whether he took the fight on an hour, 24, 48 hours notice. The, the way that Billy talks about Martin and the stories from sparring and all this other stuff, that I feel that that's kind of gone now because he was knocked out in 2 rounds. So yeah, but that could maybe play into his hands and maybe be a few people more interested in fighting him now, having seen the 2 round demolition job that Joe done on him. He's still a great fighter. He still can do something in the division. Potentially for me, I think it was a bad call. I don't think it was the right call. You always back your man. You don't expect a fighter to ever turn down a fight, but maybe Billy should have, looked at the bigger picture and went, you know what, we've got this final eliminator in May. We're going to end up getting the winner of Dubois Parker anyway. Obviously, that was cancelled, but you get where I'm coming at. And let's just hold fire rather than take the money, lose your final eliminator, lose your aura of being the boogeyman, and yeah, it's hard for me to say. Listen, he got very very well paid for it last night, so that's just my outlook on it. But at the end of the day, he's been well paid, and that's what it is.
And you mentioned Andy Lee in the corner and saying that the overhand right was the punch. What does that say about Andy Lee as a coach to only need a round to see it and then gets him in the next round?
Yeah, listen, I think Andy's a world class coach. I think that's maybe a little bit of the difference as well. Andy's a world class coach. George is a world class strength and conditioning nutritionist. And I think you've seen Joe's physique, you've seen how crisp his shots were, how sharp he was. There's no, obviously Joe has to do the hard work, but he's got a world class team around him working with him. And we've seen we've seen that, the fact that Andy can adapt the plan, have a look, 1 round, this is how we're going to get rid of this guy, go to the next round and do it. So everything's working in tandem. You obviously need the guy who can spot that, but you obviously need the guy who can deliver what you're saying. And Joe was that man last night. So massive credit to him. He probably won't get the respect that he deserves for the performance last night, given the fact that Martin was on 48 hours notice or 36 hours notice. But Martin was the boogeyman. Martin, tough as they come, still a great fighter, still probably in the top five if he's got a camp behind him. But yeah, an unbelievable performance. Given the fact that he's had to overcome the disappointment of the Dubois fight and everything all added into the picture, I think it was a great performance.
What do you want to see next for Joseph Parker now? Do you feel it has to be a world title fight next for him?
I think out of everybody in the division, he's the only guy that deserves a world title shot. Um, I think it's a little bit sus, the whole Dubois thing, and now they're basically saying that it looks like it's going to be Dubois Usyk. Um, Makes you think, well, how did that happen? Like, where did that come from? I don't, I don't know anything. I just think it's a little bit sus, personally. Um, I think that Dubois should have to fight Joe next, whenever that is. He never took a lot of punishment in the ring last night. It was a pretty, quick in there, out of there performance. So there's no reason why they couldn't fight in May. but it looks like it's going to be Dubois. But Joe definitely deserves a world title shot this year.
Absolutely. And then the main event, Beterbiev Bivol too. We saw the 12 rounds back in October, and going into the rematch, none of us quite knew who to back. My head was changing every week when I tried to think of who was going to win, but we saw in what a lot of people think a bit more of a dominant display last night from Dmitry Bivol, and what was a deserved win. He got revenge. What did you make of rounds 12 to 24, or rounds 13 to 24 even?
Yeah, it was a mad fight, wasn't it? Bivol started very strong. Thought that he done extremely well the first 3 rounds. He completely changed his tactics from the first fight. He was frustrating Beterbiev a lot. Not that he never had an answer, but he had an answer to everything Beterbiev was doing. He was winning every exchange. And then from rounds 4 to 6, I don't know, it just seemed like something happened, or maybe I don't know that there was an issue with his calf, or I don't know, but he just seemed to wilt a little bit. And Beterbiev came on strong, had a lot of success. He was then winning every exchange. And then from round 7 to 12, I thought Bivol had the better of it. He came back into the fight again, started winning every exchange. Beterbiev had some success in the later rounds, but I thought I had it 115, 113. I had Bivol winning it by a round. But it was a kind of fascinating fight, everything that you would have hoped it to be. And it's hard to imagine that it was actually a better fight than the first one. How could you beat that? Do you know what I mean? The first one was incredible, but it was a better fight. And yeah, I don't, I'm not, could have went to Beterbiev, arguably. It was very, very close. There was a round in it for me. So depends what you're looking for, but it's good it sets up the trilogy. And I think all real boxing fans are happy that it's turned out that way.
Do you feel it has to be the trilogy next for both of them?
Oh yeah, that's the only fight for the two of them. There's no other fight. It's got to be the trilogy. That's arguably up there with the best trilogies of all time. Do you know what I mean? Gatti, Ward. Um, aye, that's got to be. You know what I know all the trilogies, but I'm struggling to think of them off the top of my head now. But aye, that's got to be up there with one of the best. It's going to be one of the best. If the first two are anything to go by, the third one's going to be a barnstormer. Just don't know who's going to win it.
Do you feel with these two fighters, we've seen 24 rounds now, and there's probably a round or two splitting them over the whole 24 rounds. Do you feel they're just that good that no matter how many times they fight, it's going to be razor close every time?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's more about the camps, how their camps go, how their bodies are going into the fight, how their preparation has went would be the bigger deciding factor for these guys because they're both made out of iron by the looks of things. They're both tough as they come, skillful operators, and great athletes. Do you know what I mean? They've really dedicated themselves to the sport, top men. So. Yeah, I think it comes down to the camp. Who has the better camp that gives them the edge on fight night? Because they're both, like you say, just incredibly gifted boxers and tough men.
Just lastly, Bivol has also mentioned that he is ready to face the likes of Canelo and David Benavidez next as well, if it isn't Beterbiev. Do you feel he beats both of them as well?
I think he's already beat Canelo,
Yeah.
so I don't think there's any argument with that. Ben Benitez could be a tough fight for him. I'd say he's got the edge. But yeah, if it wasn't going to be Beterbiev in the trilogy, then maybe Ben Benitez. I don't think there's any need to see him fight Canelo again. I think Crawford and Canelo looks like it's going to be pushed for through by Turkey. So yeah, maybe Ben Benitez, but I think the trilogy is the only fight for him.
Absolutely. Nick, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Always good to catch up, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Hope everyone enjoyed the fights. Have a good Sunday. Speak to you all soon.
Perfect.